Welcome to All Things in the Name of Love. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today, we've already been talking, right? Today, I have with me Divine Soul Sister. It was the first time I've met in this lifetime, but we've known many, many, many lifetimes, among other things, because she's an amazing, divine human being. She's a transformational coach who helps you remember your divinity. Um, she has a variety of different modalities that she uses, including Reiki, colon cleansing, and just so many other things. And I don't even care about that because I just I mean I do because I know you're shining your light, and I'm so grateful for that. And we were just diving really deep into our Palladian connections and so many things, like how the 3D doesn't work when you're Palladian,
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
doesn't make sense, and we can
yeah.
dive into that a little bit more. But at first and foremost, thank you for joining me on this divine day, and I'm so looking forward to this amazing, expansive conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophia. It's so apropos that it's today and Pluto just, thank heavens, entered back into Aquarius. And so you, my high degree aqua friend, I think that you are, and I'm learning it. If my podcast bro Scott was with me, he'd be like, yes, I think that you're a 27-degree Aquarius,
Ooh,
which
okay.
is a rather high. It's like you're in like the third decan, so it's how you feel about things
Mm.
and your spirituality. That's seven. Some Neptunian, some Piscean energy in there with your aqua, which actually makes a lot of sense given that you communicate with animals.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like before we came on and we were both kind of preemptively like apologizing because we both have like four-leggeds in the room with us, which is not something that I typically do, but I think that I might start after this. Feels really good. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, like, let's just start with a little brief bio about your background, and
Sure.
then we can just like
Sure.
dive into what's like
Totally.
currently happening, because like there's so much shifting in the consciousness right now.
Yes, for sure. For sure. So, yeah, I came to Earth School, and I think that I'm one of my messages is just to help people remember their sacred divine contract with the YO universe. It's an inside job, and as a Gen Xer that spent probably 4 decades, maybe five, kind of just totally externalizing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, not because I wanted it for me, because I wanted it for everybody else and forgot that there was a me.
Mm-hmm.
And so this work has been super powerful as a transformational coach because the divine sacredness that each individual holds within themselves is something that I'm humbled and honored that I get to share
Yeah.
in with like their light. It's an unbelievable blessing.
I love that so much, because like especially right now, because I know
Yeah.
in huh, the past few months, the transformations I've had like on a day-to-day basis have been kind of trippy to like see all the layers of distortion that I thought I'd healed, and yet no, well, just a little bit more, like a little deeper, a little deeper. I'm like, do I have any more onion layers left? Because like it's just that deeper remembrance, and it's not like I wish it was a one and done, but no, no, it really is like, okay, you did that layer, now it's the next deeper layer and the next deeper
Yes.
layer, and then
Yes.
eventually you remember that, there's no ending to it, but you remember more of the divine being you are. And my left brain is like, right. Yeah. Because that's left brain. But I see and I feel and I know what's coming through me. So the left brain is kind of taking a bit of a backseat finally, thankfully, um, because there's no way to quantify what's coming through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was trying to explain it to a dear friend of mine who's in her 20s, right? She's in her late 20s and very intuitive being, like people joke around with her and call her Grand Shan, and they're really calling her like a grandma. She's like, do you know what it's like to be 27 and be like a grandma? And one of the things that I think is so interesting is that I was explaining to her that when I was her age, we at least and trust me, I grew up like between New York and California. So places where
That's
there was
beautiful.
like large numbers of people that I thought had consciousness or create or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
I believe that version of reality to be is
Mhm.
nothing like it is. And I was
Yeah.
trying to explain to her that people didn't talk about these things back then. She was like, "What?" I
No.
no. Like
Not even close. Like the psychics were like the crazy people on Long Island,
right, like, it
right?
was like right, you would, like, call, like, an 800 number, like, and I
Yep.
was trying to explain it to her, and she was like, "Oh my god, Michelle, it's like the spiritual dark ages." I was like, "Compared to what you've incarnated into,
Yeah.
absolutely, but I believe that Gen Xers literally are the bridge."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Right?
definitely
We're
feel that because
literally the crisscross from the silent generation, the boomers, the millennials, to the Zers, to now the alpha, and those that are now coming in.
yeah.
We contracted to be this bridge.
Mm,
And so to me, to have people dialoguing about spirituality, like I went to divinity school at Vanderbilt
right.
because I wanted to know what made people tick. Like people got like stratospherically like attached to religion.
Mhm.
And what I really was questing after was what in their spirit was driving this connection, right,
Mm,
to higher source energy.
mhm.
And I ended up learning tons about people and a beautiful experience. But again, in the 90s, like people are like, what are you doing going to divinity school? Like, you should become like an entertainment lawyer. I was like, I was like,
Close.
I, I was like, I want to help people,
Right. Right.
and like figure out like who they are and be like, what do you want to do that for? Like, why? Just you can help people get rich. Like, just do that. I was like, no. So just to think that how in like 35, 30 years,
Yeah.
what are we going to look like in another 20 after Pluto
Oh, yeah.
and it's through
Oh, yeah.
Aquarius?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because like, I know, like, both my parents, they don't like, I said this to my mom about a year ago. I said, "You know, mom, you and dad were rainbow sheep because neither one of them fit into the paradigm." Mom has been a musician since she incarnated. She started playing the piano at 4. She became an organist and a choir director and all these things, so she didn't fit in a category, right? Dad was a nature lover. And yeah, he taught high school math, but like he was really connected to nature. Like he taught me everything about identifying all sorts of creatures and critters and took me out on the lake all the time because they didn't fit in to that paradigm, but they couldn't expand into the divine beings they really are because that was the time frame. So like I'm like the daughter of two rainbow sheep and I'm like, I'm so fucking cool.
Wow, that's amazing because like my father actually was a sculptor
Oh
and then
wow.
realized when he became like a dad, he was like, holy shit, I've got to get a job. And he did great for himself.
Okay.
And I think as a Virgo, he had to live in that very kind of reality. Like
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we're contracted for, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm,
But it definitely became a, so my family, you know, from other places, and I think that they were so concerned about assimilation. It was
yeah,
like you have to fit in. And
yeah.
I yeah, and I was just somebody that, at least I grew up in places large enough that not fitting in kind of became like my brand.
I love that.
It was okay. You
I
know, it
love
was okay. Like I was into rap. I was also into punk. Like you could find me like, you know, in a mosh pit slam dancing, or like you could find me downtown, like in Brooklyn, you know, in somewhere like in like a rap club or in Harlem. Like,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know, so there was range like that. I try to
Yeah.
explain that to younger people. Like when we talk about the dark age, like there was expression and
Mhm.
ranges of expression that we started to kind of flirt with, which was individuality coming through.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember having like a bracelet with spikes because I really thought Joan Jett was rad. I was like, oh my God, that is a cool.
Yeah.
I remember like filing my spikes one day as like a 13-year-old, like in my room, you know? And I just remember my mom like opening the door to my bedroom and just shaking her head and like just walking out again. And then like comes back and says, don't ever wear that when we go out anywhere together.
Oh
I
my,
was like, okay, cool. I'll just save it for my friends.
that's so beautiful.
We didn't even express ourselves like that. Like we were such conformists. And
My
even
rebellion, my rebellion was Argyle socks.
right, see, that's what I'm saying. So now to see the range, you can't put it back in the box once
No.
once the genie came out of the bottle, you can't put it back in.
Mhm,
And so I understand that a lot of people had some very polarized views about this election in America.
mhm.
But, you know, what I've been coaching people through is be your own president, sovereign nation of one,
Yeah. Yeah, because,
right?
like, when we look outside of ourselves, like, whether or not you're in a happy or a sad place, you're still giving your power away
Yes.
because, like, no one other than ourselves can save us.
That's right. That's right.
And it's all about remembering who we are as sovereign beings. It has nothing to do with the politics. I mean, yes, there are preferences and not preferences, and like there are hopes and desires and fears and all that. But ultimately, where you place your attention within is going to be how your reality is created.
Hmm. And that architecture of reality and being the architect of our reality, I don't know about you, Sophia, but I just really started operating under that system in like the last decade of my life.
Mm,
Just having awareness. You know, it really started truly 15 years ago. That was when I kind of entered into hypnotherapy as
mm,
a
mm,
client initially,
mhm.
because I had lived through a trauma, and I was kind of in the field and knew enough that I should get help really quick. And
Yeah.
so I did. Um, but I was still operating in the collective as if the collective was me, and
Mm,
my flow emanated from what was going on around me
mhm.
as opposed to what was going on from within me.
Yeah. I totally hear that. That was the year my dad died. So like I ended up finding Vishen, I can't remember Vishen's last name from Mind Valley. He had a meditation that was a
Yeah.
7 point, it was like seven different parts to the meditation. And the one that I stuck on the most was forgiveness. And I listened to that thing for 7 years, every day, because I knew that I needed to do it. And I did the Silva method. And then I got into receiving body talk sessions and, you know, past life regressions and shamanic healing. Like I've done so many different things because like my soul just kept on saying, "Oh, this one, let's do more," because I wanted to like, I didn't know I was at the time, I didn't know I was trying to remember my Christ consciousness.
Right.
I just knew that I had a lot of shit that I needed to clear,
Mhm.
and I didn't know
Mhm.
what it was, but I knew
Mhm.
I just didn't want it anymore. It didn't feel good. So, yeah, it was just like that desire, that quest to like, what is this thing that, because when I was little, I didn't recognize myself in the mirror for the first like 7 years of my life. I didn't know who was looking at me,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
because I came from Pleiades, and I'm like, "What is this thing?"
Yeah. So it's interesting as we were talking about kind of backstage because you don't meet many people that say, "Hey, I think that we'll meet more. I
Yes.
think that we'll be meeting more and more." But I went through a very significant healing about and I'm terrible retrospectively, right? Because there's no time. It's all just now anyway.
Right.
But it was in 2016, 2017, like around that period, 2018. I
Mhm.
thank God I'm 5 years out and good and great, actually, thank God. But I I didn't know anything. Like, okay, so very spiritual, always have been. I would say, as a hypnotherapist, that I realize I'm exceedingly auditory, also very kinesthetic, and highly visual. So I have a rather integrated system, right? My VAC is kind of so I have had experiences that to me, I've always known God. I've been very blessed that I came as one with God consciousness. Um, eh, Ironically, I came from a very terrible adoption agency. You might know them from the Netflix, the triplets, like their adoption agency from Louise Wise. That was where I was adopted from. So weird stuff. Like we know more about Christ's birth than probably mine. But I had some very early experiences that I was very disconnected from that I didn't even understand. Like somebody would be sick or something, and my dad would be like, "What do you think? You think they're going to live? You think they're going to die? Like, what do you think?" And I think that my dad was like empowering me, like to
Wow.
start to tap something in me. Like he was somebody, so he was a Ram Dass guy. I was always able to read, and I would sit in his office with Ram Dass books and
I love that.
I would like read. My mother would be like, "Oh, why are you reading those devil worship?" Like, it was just like this whole, like my dad actually came up with a great idea, like in the early 80s before there were yoga studios. He said one day we were sitting at dinner, and it was when you used to have stimulating conversation at dinner where you weren't rushing out to hockey and you weren't
Mhm.
rushing to pottery class, and like you sat and it was a
Yeah.
dinner hour. My dad goes, "Wow, it'd be really cool to do like this yoga barn concept. Like, there'd
Oh
be all these storefronts in the city, but then there would be like a barn and you would bring like nature in and you would like do yoga."
my God, I love your dad.
And my mom goes, "That's the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. Like, why would people like go pay to do something they can do at home for free? And like, who's going to really do yoga?" So mom wasn't really the visionary in the family.
Right, right.
So, like, dad encouraged me. So, my mom passed away when I was rather young. And after she had passed away, it was like 6 weeks to the day. And my mother and I did not have the most fabulous of relationships. She died when I was an adolescent. It's not unusual for adolescents to have. We were very, very different people. I was a smart ass. I used to say things like when you were 10, like I was 10, and I'd be like, "You don't know how to balance your checkbook. Like, that's your problem. Like, can I just show you how to?" Like, no, the problem is me running the mouth. So, boop. So the funny thing is that when my mother passed away, and it actually is funny because you would think that the last person that she would come to would be me.
Mhm.
But it doesn't matter. Even when your kid treats you a little bit rough during adolescence, you still love them. So She came to me after she died. And I remember in having this experience, and I was 17, and I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, is this a joke? Because I was an adolescent, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
like an adolescent. And I remember like, okay, so she had no body, right? She had none. And she was just pure light, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, all right, so it's like me, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And she's like, well, I know it's you. I was like, all right, cool. And so she was like, come this way. So like we go into her bedroom and she put on, because this was the 80s. So she put on like this really fancy sweatsuit that somebody made for her, right? But she didn't have like a body, but she wanted me to see that it was like her, right?
Okay.
And so I could get that the energy was moving around.
Yeah.
All right. And so then the next thing that I had in this experience was we were outside in our yard. We were actually on at our home on the island, and so we had like a lot. And I remember kind of going up into the sky with her when we went out, right? So I
Mm.
was having probably left my body too, right? My light
Yeah.
body came forward, my body probably stayed in the bed, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, all right, so this is what it's like. I was
Mm.
like, got it. And she was like, yeah, like I'm here. Like I had like an ice cream soda with my friend Roz. Like it's not a big deal. And I was like, okay, awesome. I was like, cool. I was like, why would you even come to me? And she was like, don't ask that. Like, don't start with this. I was like, well, daddy would be the one that really wants to like, quote unquote, see you,
Mm.
like his heart's breaking. Like,
Yeah.
why me? And she was like, Michelle, don't. I was like, please don't go. Like, let me get him so he can
Mm.
see you, And she's like, you
Yeah.
can't say that, Michelle. Like, the whole thing is going to like end.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and I was like, oh, and then I woke up, Sophia, and I wasn't in my bed. I was actually in our like living room.
Oh, wow.
And we had these blinds that my mom had picked out before she had passed, and they were really nice blinds. And I went, and the light was just so pretty in the living room in the morning. And I was looking for my dad in the house. I was like, Daddy, like he had left already for the office, whatever. And the light was just hitting my leg through the blinds in a certain way. And it was the same in my dream. So when
Ooh.
I came to consciousness and I saw it, I was like, this is super weird.
Yeah.
So that was really my first like extempore. I didn't know that I was out of body, right?
Mhm.
And so like my dad came home and I said to him, I was like, I have kind of an odd like dream to tell you about. And my dad, being somebody who was interested in expanded consciousness,
Yeah.
like, this is incredible. He's like, you have to stay super open. Like,
Oh.
this is great. He's like, I always knew that, like, the way you love animals, the way you would like find things. He's like, well, of course, what happens when you tell a 17-year-old to do something? They do the exact
Yeah,
opposite.
exactly. Exactly.
All right, this is under lock and key. Boop, I'm ditching the key. I'm not gonna be weirder. Like, really? Like, I have to be weirder, dude? So I didn't do anything with it.
Mm.
In fact, I shut it down. And
Yeah.
so I feel like this is a period transformationally. And you know this, Sophia, because of the clients that you work with. Like, for somebody to call you to help to heal their family member who just happens to walk on four legs,
Mm.
like you're dealing with an enlightened being,
Yeah.
like who is processing things at a different level and space. And so, like, to me, the coolest part about this ascension process is when I meet young people that come in to my office and they're like, wow, Michelle, I really dig your vibe. And they're like taking in my aura. And I
Mm.
would imagine I was like in the 60s, like when people, But there were drugs involved. These are
Right.
people that are just coming in with the expanded consciousness.
Mhm, mhm.
This to me is a re-evolution of us, the greatest and highest degree.
Mm.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I heard somebody once say that, like, how your grandparents, like, would talk about, like, the end of the war, and
Mhm,
that it was just like this joy. I feel like, Sophia, we're gonna look back and we're gonna remember from, like, today, like literally today, like
mhm.
November 19th, like the beginning. We're gonna be like, wow, all of that before was like a bad dream. Kind of like that old Dallas thing that I think I didn't watch it, but everybody thought he was dead and he woke up from the dream and it was like just a dream. Like, I feel like a lot of this muck and mire and
Mhm.
weird cinder blocks that we've placed on ourselves.
Oh,
Are,
yeah, it's crazy, like, so, for example, this is just coming through, is the beautiful four-legged I'm sitting with right now. I love helping animals with anxiety and trauma. She wants me to develop a relationship with her before she allows me to do a session with her.
yeah,
And I love that because, like, I know animals have consciousness. Animals are multidimensional. Like, I've known that for a while. They're just fascinating beings of light. And and I've always asked permission. I never do anything without permission. But the fact that she's conscious enough to be like, "Mm-mm, you're not getting anywhere near me until you develop a relationship, because I want you to know who I really am, and then you can help me." And I'm like, that's what a person would say, right?
right.
Like, yeah, you do the amazing energy healing stuff. That's great. I want to kind of get to know you a little bit more. I can feel your vibe and everything, but like, let's just like really be in the space of like getting to know each other. And I'm like, wow, this is so amazing.
Yes. Yes.
And animals really have that, like their frequency is raising just like ours.
That's right. They're in
And
ascension, just like us.
I did a session, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago. The human didn't ask for the session, the animal did.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was in a space where she couldn't hear that, but the animal had me, like, through me, because I don't do anything, I'm a channel. Um, we upgraded her DNA. Actually went into her DNA and manipulated it for higher frequency. And I was like, wow. That's so freaking, because she knew I could help her. And
Yes.
so, like,
Yes.
matching with, like, the animals already know what I can do. And I've told Source, I'm like, okay, I will help any animal that comes into my field, because the humans aren't ready to necessarily receive that reality, but the
Mm-hmm.
animals are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's been very interesting because I've had a couple animals come in that I've met in passing, and they'll come in to my field when I'm waking up and be like, "Hey, could you help me out? Because the humans aren't going to be able to hear it." And I'm like, "Honey, that's my gift. Yes, of course I will." Because I can't say it's not a lack of boundaries. It's an awareness that, like, they really need help.
Yes.
So I'm that open conduit for that with my boundaries of sleep. But it's like it's like go time for them, because they know, they intuitively sense that, like, as we enter this change in our frequency, a lot of people are going to look to the animals in the former paradigm that they had as emotional support beings.
That's right. That's right.
They don't want to do that anymore. They're tired of codependency. They're tired of that relationship. They want to be sovereign, interdependent, and have stewards. And like, that's a huge shift in the paradigm for the humans.
It is such a significant shift. I mean, I I think about, so I was that kid, that watched Dr. Doolittle over and over again. I actually would have become a vet, but I never wanted to harm them. And I never wanted to cut anybody. That's why I knew there had to be another way
Yeah,
than cut.
yeah.
So I didn't do that.
It's the same
But
reason with
I
me.
loved, I mean, I picked up straight, my dad would say she picked up stray dogs, stray cats, stray people, stray horse, like stray anything. Like she would like, come on, come this way.
Mhm.
And if you think about just how, okay, I'm going to have to spell the word because Scooby Max is here, just how feeding our pet family members, like how that has shifted, right? Like people
Mhm.
used to give them like dry kibble, stuff like that. You know, we had one of my guides, she was a black lab, Lady Di. She comes to me now in the form of a ladybug because her nickname was, I used to call her Ladybug.
Oh.
And so sometimes I miss her, and every so often the ladybug will come and it will appear. And she was my teacher of how do I help to alkalize the body of a canine.
Mm.
Because so she got very sick with leukemia. And yeah. Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm back.
Yeah. She
Sorry about
got,
that.
she got super sick with leukemia. And they told me that she had had 6 weeks to live.
Mm.
And I was just like, I was like, no. I was like, I can't, no. And so I essentially took on what you would do like with a human,
Mm.
right? And I just kind of like apostasis, like we got her cells dumping stuff, got her on a raw diet, like just
Mm.
she was having, cannabis oil because
Mm.
just exactly what you would do for a human, but
Yeah,
scaled to her.
yeah.
She ended up living for 9 months.
Oh.
Like there was like a vet that came from the University of Tennessee that was like, how did you do this? And I promised myself that from now on, I would always have my pets eat vegetables and a raw diet
Mm.
and the fruits that, fruits and vegetables that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can, that they would eat like a living diet,
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because our son says that his friends notice a difference in our pets versus their pets.
Yeah.
They just feel like the lights on, like their communication is different.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because they need, they're ascending. They need us to show up differently than we have.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But people don't know that.
Right. Right.
They don't know that. People are like, you feed your dog an SALAD. Like if I even said the word right now, he would jump up out of the chair and just be like, what? And
Love
people
that.
cannot believe, like, and of course I have the friends that are like, oh my God, the dogs eat better than I do. And I'm like, well, then that should be telling you something.
Mm.
You need
Mm-hmm.
to eat your SALAD.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knows what I'm saying,
And all the other GREE and S.
Yes. And, I think that that's just such a beautiful thing to recognize is that these are stewards. Like they want us to show up as stewards for them, right? They're stewards for Pachamama, for the earth also. They want to experience, like they're here to contribute their vibe to
Mhm.
her and to exchange the vibe with her
Oh, yeah.
and and with us, but in
Yeah.
exchange, not just a one way.
Mhm. I
I'm
love that. I had a vision a couple months ago that in the not too distant future, I'm gonna have Bernese Mountain Dogs, and they have work to do in the world. So we're gonna have our own days, and then they'll come back and we'll have dinner together and like share because we're gonna be like telepathic. So they'll share what they did and I'll share what I did. And it's like, yeah, they sleep in the house with me and I take care, I'm their steward, but they have work to do in the world. I don't know what that work is, and it doesn't matter because it's their assignment, not mine.
yes, yes. It's so interesting because I've only had One, two, three. I've had three animals that I know of that have come through super, super clearly to me.
Mm,
Like that have, one was a client that I didn't know that their dog had transitioned. I
okay.
didn't know that he was out of body. And this, these people were somewhat new to me. The wife I had seen before, the hubby I had not. They were seeing me for colon hydrotherapy. The husband is on my table and I hear this voice in my head saying to tell my daddy that I'm okay.
Mm,
And having worked with children, I'm like, that's not a child's voice.
mhm,
I was like, wait a second. I
mm,
was like, okay. And so I just telepathically, I was like, okay, I absolutely will. And he's like, Daddy's been very sad
mm,
and I am worried and I want him to know that I'm okay. And so I said to him, I was like, okay, friend, I was like, I think I know who you are. And I was like, your mommy is going to come in and we're going to have a conversation with her because if your daddy is really sad, I want to respect his heart space
yeah.
and like let your mommy tell. So, like, I was really clear with
Mhm.
this little guy that like mommy was going to come. And so when I came in, when she came in and I asked her and she was like, my God, Michelle. She was like, yes. And so I was like, was there like something about like the food bowls and that you didn't want to put them up? And Eric was like, it's time. And you were like, Wendy's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying this to me. You were like in my head. How did you know this, Michelle? And I was like, no, I was like, I've never had an experience like this,
Yeah.
but your little pup was sending me.
Mm.
He wanted you to know you're okay. He's okay. And she was like, thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
And so, like, obviously we all have the frequency, right? Like the bandwidth, if we can tune in.
yeah.
What do you recommend for people to do, Sophia, to get into
So
that
the basic,
space?
the first thing is to ground yourself, right? My preference is to actually physically take my shoes off and stand in the ground for grounding, but you can visualize it by dropping cords down from your feet into the center of the earth,
Yeah.
and you can feel it and wrap it around the core of the earth. And then put your hands on your heart. Inhale, exhale. And this is the beginning of the communication. Ask your body to show you what a yes feels like. And then you can ask your body to show you what a no feels like.
Mhm.
And from that state, you can ask your four-legged if they will allow you to be a proxy for them. And you'll feel a yes or no in your body because you're already entangled in the quantum
Yes.
field. You're entangled. So then you
Yes.
can start asking yes and no questions. And that's a really good start for understanding what they want. I mean, I'm learning this beautiful four-legged now. She has beautiful vocal cords. She's a soprano, and she uses her diaphragm and her lungs. And I appreciate her. I said, you have a beautiful voice because she
Yes.
does. It's loud, it's clear. She knows how to express herself, and I'm learning the cues because she doesn't trust me yet. She's learning to trust me, so I have to like step out and like ask her what she needs at a given time and like wait to see where she is. And so that patience level is really important too, because typically we're like, okay, we're just going to feed the dog or we're going to walk the dog or whatever, without actually cueing into what they need at a moment. It really requires being monotasked as opposed to multitasked.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm fully present with her, and she's trying to make eye contact with me right now. When I'm fully present with her, I can feel what she wants.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you can't do that if you're distracted.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's such a beautiful thank you for that because, I'm somebody that believes in a conversation, everything can change
Yeah.
in the best of ways,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think that it's the same with our animals,
Yeah.
that in that energetic conversation, it can change in,
Mhm.
in a connection. They don't
Yeah.
hold in their emotional field as much junk as we do anyway.
No, the only thing that they do, like what I see is like if there's a trauma that they haven't had healed, that stays in them. But once I'm given permission to work with them, there's this like switch, and then I have access to that. Like I tried to harmonize her amygdala, kidneys, and adrenals the other day, and she gave me a hard no because she doesn't know me yet.
Yep.
I was like, okay, well, that's cool, but I know what you need when you're ready for it. And
Yes.
so once I have permission to do a full session with her, she'll be better within like 2, 3 days. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful.
I love doing it. It's so amazing.
It's such beautiful work. I mean, I adore. Yes, I'm talking about you. I adore, like just
Mhm.
spending time and learning who they are,
Mhm.
right? And I'm just in awe of it because I think that in places and spaces that I don't know, I didn't used to see dogs. Now all of a sudden at the airport, you see the little pet,
Mhm.
relief area.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, the world really has changed. Like a
Mhm.
friend of mine told me the other day, they were like, hey, there's a whole like rack of clothes at TJ Maxx for like dogs and for cat, for the winter. And I was like, yes. I was like,
Love that. I love that.
and then my son sends a picture from where was he? He was at like the tractor supply place or something. And there was a whole thing of like, again, for dogs and cats. He's like, look,
Wow.
mom. He's like, I'm going to pick up a couple of sweaters for Miley Rose. Does Scooby need anything? And it was just like,
I love that.
no, it's just such a different way.
Mhm.
And so I know that for those of us that are aware enough,
Mhm.
we know that we're going in a better
Oh
direction.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel it. I definitely feel it because like just in the past week, I mean, yes, there was a seismic shift in our culture. Yes, that. But like the energy that followed it, like on Tuesday, I felt the collective anxiety.
Yes.
Wednesday morning, I didn't follow anything because I don't care about politics. Uh,
Sure.
But what I was tuning into is the energy. And Wednesday morning, I felt expansion.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, something shifted. And we're given an opportunity because we have these deep rifts in our world, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
way we heal it first is within ourselves, and then offering that love that we are, not as a to-do thing, but just the beingness of the
Yes.
love that we are. Come on, honey. There we go. I saw a little bit of hi. Hi, sweet girl. Yeah. So she's like, when are you gonna stop this?
Get
Hey,
back to
baby
me.
girl. She's like, you've been talking. I don't understand this. It's not about me.
Oh,
But
sweet.
I want to talk to you briefly. Like, what are you feeling that like, especially now today, like with this Pluto and Aquarius energy, like what are you feeling and what are you sensing out of this?
I'm sensing that we're all becoming something that we've never been before. Like I kind of feel like the anticipation of, wow, what can I build
Mm,
from me? Like,
yeah.
what can I build? For those of us that are, I would say, in a place in a space that we're able to do that. We've made the conscious choice to do that, right? Because I also see, and this is really, sometimes I wonder, is it real or are they backdrop people? Am I just like mad libbing it and ad libbing it and filling in stuff because, well, you always have to have the unhappy people too. You know,
Mm,
it's like I see that there's a victimization, you know, that has been programmed in to the
mm,
culture
yeah.
that I feel like the greatest act of rebellion right now, if you're pissed off, is love and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Mm-hmm.
and joy.
Yeah.
And one of the most empowering things that I think I sense intuitively is the inward shift. Like we had practice during the pandemic, the plandemic, the scamdemic, whatever that time that we lived
Yeah.
through, whatever
Yeah.
that was like a preview for, you know, and again, politics, all that nonsense
Yeah.
and jargon aside, that was a preview of, wow, what is it like to sit with
Yeah.
your own energy
Yeah.
externally doesn't really matter. It's like the caterpillar. Who are you in
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland?
It was such an unintended consequence. It was
The
such a,
silver lining.
yeah, it really was because like that opportunity to like, I mean, I'd been going within, but to actually hear you're gonna start like I just got guided to start taking body talk classes, and the second
Yes.
one was called Body Talk Access for Animals. So I'm in a Zoom call, and it's a tapping technique, and the person that calls in isn't on Zoom. Like this is all in Ireland, okay? The person that whose dog I'm supposed to work on can't get onto Zoom, so the facilitator holds the phone up like this, okay? And there's like 10 of us, so like her screen is small, and I'm working on that dog on the screen on the phone, and I'm like, okay, I see something going like this. All right.
Little.
And I start tapping. And it's like a if you do it properly, it's like a half-hour thing because you inhale and exhale with each tap. So it's
Yes.
it's a really profound thing. But because we were practicing, we were going faster and there were like 10 of us in the class and we had an hour. So we're tapping as fast as I can. But she went from bouncing to sound asleep before I was done. And I was like, whoa, what is this? I got to figure out more of this. So I took 3 more classes, and in Body Talk, they kick you out of the nest, so to speak, to start practicing.
Sure. Sure.
I was going to take the test, and my team said, "You've already been through that program. You have a PhD. You know the certification thing is a thing, right? That's part of programs, right? So go start working." And I was like, "Really?" And so I started getting clients that had animals, and I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool." Because I don't know what's going to come through the session. I know what the chart is, I know how it happens. I mean, the logistics of it. I don't follow the protocols per se, but I use the system. And the animal just like tells me what they want. I write it down while I'm channeling, so the handwriting sucks. I record it. And like from that to now, and the expansion I've had from that has been so magical and so profound, and that they're tuning in. As you know, you feel the frequency shifts, right? So it's like we're catching up with them,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we get to now see how powerful they are to remind us of how powerful we are.
Do dogs and cats and animals in general, like, do they cross incarnate like as human, animal, back to human? What have you found? I'm just curious from the whole past life work that I've done with some folks, although
You
I
know, it's
believe it.
interesting. It's interesting because I have felt that I've been a tree before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have a very profound connection with cedar and their kin, like
Uh-huh.
especially the Western
Uh-huh.
cedars. Like we have conversations pretty regularly.
Uh-huh.
I've also I was also one of King Solomon's children, and his temple was built with cedars from Lebanon. So like that's very
Yes.
old, I guess, connection, very profound connection with the cedars. I
Yes.
don't know if I have been, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a deeper kin. It's maybe my Native American energy, because
Yeah. Yeah.
we've been everything. So I'm not trying to
Mm.
like do the whole co-opting of a different culture thing. But I'm just
No,
recognizing
no,
that
no.
it's a
Totally.
yeah, it's a multidimensional soul thing.
Yes.
And the Native American part of me goes into tears every time I feel Mother Earth and all of her beings, because it's so profound, and the gratitude I feel for being able to be on this planet at the same, with this planet and co-creating with this planet is so profound. As for being another, I think I have felt that like my Chow will reincarnate as something else. I don't know
Mhm.
if he'll cross into a human species, but since we're all energy, nothing would surprise me is my response.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, because so in some of the multi now work that I do with folks with their higher selves, because I never, so regression as a hypnotherapist, regression is like it's like a cuss word to me. I feel like, oh my gosh, where is anything regressively good? Like
Right,
regressive
right.
taxation, bad, like regressive laws, horrible,
Yeah, the whole word's a low frequency.
Exactly. So I think that there's many aspects of a multi now that we're just sharing the space and our attention is on this point right here,
Mhm.
and the rest is kind of fractionated.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to me because in this multi now, people have said to me, I have a client who remembered like their lifetime as an octopus. And they were like, it was like my favorite lifetime.
Oh, wow.
And it was because they just were kind of like eating some seaweed, just floating along, living their life, and they
Wow.
were just totally present,
Wow.
And so I wonder because, Dolores Cannon is she's transitioned, but she was a great quantum
Oh, yeah.
hypnotherapist,
Yeah.
right? And so like Dolores believed that whenever you took an animal into your home, you were actually prepping them to reincarnate as human the
Oh,
next
wow.
time. And she just extrapolated that, right? She said she was never a channel. It was just from her
Yeah, yeah.
cultural experience of seeing so many people and
Sure.
writing their stories and seeing their patterns. And so I think of that often, is
Yeah.
that it just
I
makes you
yeah,
kind of
I mean, it's
accountable.
like I am so fascinated by how deep this goes. Like
Mhm.
I started taking classes, I don't know if I'm going to continue, but I started taking classes at Quantum University. I took the first two, massive expansion. My left brain's now integrated more with my right brain. I understand much more about the multidimensionality and entanglement and the five bodies we have, and it's like really, really profound and deep and amazing. And I'm scratching the surface. I mean, I've expanded a lot, and I know there's like so much more that I've just tapped into and it's already expanded me. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm having expansion,
Yes,
and the
yes.
expansion is making me know, oh, there's so much more that I can expand into
Mhm.
that I'm beginning to remember.
Mhm. Yes, it's a beginning to remember, and
Yeah.
that's like I don't care. Like I've said, if you're 5 years old, if you're 105, your karma is complete. Like your karma, like yes, now karma is starting up again, if you will, because we're in this forward momentum in a huge transit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've cleared it all.
Yeah.
We've
Which is
cleared
great.
it all. Like, who are you now that it's
Yeah.
all clear, all
Yeah.
systems go. Who do you want to be? And I think that that's really the biggest question that I sense right now from everyone is like, my God, who do I want to be, Michelle? Who am I becoming? Like,
Mhm.
what if you didn't have to quote unquote work? What would you do?
Yeah.
People are seriously exploring that in
I love
depth
that.
every single day,
Mm.
that I work with people, and
Mhm.
and that's not, oh, why don't you become an entertainment lawyer? Like, what? Like, it's like, no, I really want to bring my music, I really want to bring my art, I want to bring my healing gifts, like I want
Mhm.
to bring to the party what I signed up for in my soul contract.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
cool time to be alive.
Oh, yeah, like, all the things we can do, like, I never thought that, working at the Maine Folk Life Center, digitizing audio, working for Maine Public Broadcasting, and learning production would lead me to have a podcast and do voiceovers. And
Yes.
that's just one aspect of the multi-being that I am. I see
Yes.
a tail. I see a tail.
Get the tail. Come up here. Come here, Scooby
I
Nat.
see the tail. Well, hello.
Hi.
Hi, beautiful.
Say hi. Say, I'm going to probably stand on mom's desk. Hi.
Of course, and you're gonna stand on the keyboard
You want
too?
to be on the keyboard and
All
you
the
want to say,
things? Yeah, hi there.
yes, you're here too.
Hi, Scooby.
Say hi.
Hi, Scooby. Hi, Scooby. Hi.
Say hi.
Hi. It's a
Say,
gang.
I'm really done with mom having this conversation
Yeah,
because dad,
I got that.
he is like so funny. But at the same time, you know what? He has to learn.
Yeah.
Mom sometimes gets to have a conversation.
Mhm.
And it's not always, but he kind of reached his limit. I think
A
that
bit.
what's so astounding is that we didn't used to speak this way. And now we've all kind of chosen to bring this energy forward in the world.
Mhm.
And just joy and love. Like I tell people, let those things guide you. They can be the greatest acts of rebellion, or just the greatest acts of transformation, or just the greatest acts of what's innate. Let
Mhm.
it be innate in you. That's the response.
Mm. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that, and it's within each moment, like this morning I made sourdough,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, that brings me joy.
Yes.
This brings me
Yes.
joy. Like, it's
Yes.
because it really is, like, how many different things, like, what do we do in each moment that brings us joy?
Hmm.
And that's how we exist, that's how we live, that's the big secret that we're never told.
Yes. Yes.
So,
That
yeah,
is the big secret. And I think that the secret is kind of getting out.
I
And I
love it.
think that it's just getting started.
Mm.
That's Scooby dropping his lobster in the background
Does he
because
say
Scooby can destroy a toy in about 5 seconds.
that's
And
so
so,
awesome.
so part of it is actual wood, and it truly is indestructible. He has a lobster, he has a bluefish. He loves toys. He lives for toys.
I love it. I love it, and that's his joy, right? That's his joy.
That's exactly it. This is his joy. And
Mhm.
he's just like, okay, I did what you wanted to do, mom, for about an hour. Now I'm ready to get back to me. And
Mhm.
that's why he's a great teacher of this
Yeah.
for me,
Mhm.
because it's like, wow, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Where's my lobster?
Oh, Michelle, I am so, so incredibly grateful for this time with
Oh,
you and just
my
reconnecting
friend.
in this lifetime.
It's so good to see you again. As I say to my soul tribe, it's so good to see you again. And I
Mhm,
look forward to
mhm.
seeing you
I'm I'm gonna
in
ask
more of these nows.
definitely. I'm gonna ask you the last question I ask is how do people find you?
How do people find me? They can find me at NashvilleColonCare.com. And predominantly, that's for like digestive wellness, chakra balancing, Reiki work. We have the hypnosis on that too, because people kind of need a lot of all of those things right now because we're all shifting and becoming these wonderful, amazing beings that we all agreed to become. So, thank you so much, Sophia, for having me today.
You are so very welcome, love.
Blessed transit to you, my friend, and I'm sure that we'll speak again.
Yes,
Peace be with you. Thank you now.
you too.
Bye bye.